Welcome back. Ghana is set to begin formal talks with the International Monetary Fund on a support package for its ailing economy. The decision marks a U-turn by the government of President Nana Akufo-Addo, which had long resisted going to the international lending body for help. The move follows days of street protests over mounting hardships in the country. Bright Simmons is a Ghanaian financial and policy analyst. He explained why the government is going now to the IMF.
Unfinished business. So Ghana went to the IMF in 2015 due to the fall in commodity prices and other pressures. And they had a 3-year program in 2018, which ended in 2018. The plan was that certain massive reforms should have taken place in the economy. And by the end of that period, those reforms hadn't been completed. But Ghana was adamant that they had to leave the IMF program. So end 2018, exited the program. And the government consistently, this new government, of course, because the previous government is the one that went for the 2015 program, has consistently linked going to the IMF with mismanagement of the economy and bad management in general. So it became very difficult, given those circumstances, for them to make a beehive to the IMF, given the fact that politically they raised the stakes of not going to the IMF to the level where any U-turn could be interpreted as failure. That's more or less the issue.
And I've read a couple of articles by you. You've said this is too little, too late.
In essence, because first of all, you have to understand that the IMF has several programs. Now, the problem is that their type of program is not what we're going for now. Now we're going there because we need macroeconomic stability, balance of payment, support, and significant transformation of the growth trajectory that we are on.
Is this then an admission of, failure by the government? I mean, I remember we spoke to President Akufo-Addo in April, and I described the economy as doing terribly. He got very upset about that. You've said it's a basket case right now. Is it an admission of failure on the part of the government by going to the IMF?
Because of the way they framed the challenge, rather than framing the situation as one involving the historical reform of structures of the economy, which has been going on for many decades now, they created the impression that the country had already made a significant shift in direction, and all that we are facing are some headwinds from the global picture. So in that sense, COVID and Ukraine is what they call it.
Right, I know you look at the Ghanaian economy, but you also look regionally as well, West Africa, across the continent as well. We know Zambia is talking to the IMF. Ghana wants to start talking to the IMF. I mean, Uganda. Are we going back into the 80s and the 90s when we saw a lot of African countries going to the IMF, austerity measures coming back into place? Is there a risk of this?
It's very important to remind everybody that the IMF has a different range of products for different scenarios. There is a need every now and then for a country facing a sudden balance of payments problem, or a country facing a sudden decline in revenue or macroeconomic instability, to get some injection of funds. And typically, you don't then require a long-term structural program. What Ghana is now going to the IMF to achieve is not the same thing as what happened in 2020. It's not what happened in 2015, which is then similar to what happened in the 80s. So we have to distinguish between the IMF providing emergency support and assistance and going to the IMF because you are unable domestically to embark on a program of reforms that will give comfort to your creditors, that indeed you are willing to take the hard decisions that will alter the course of your country's economic direction. That's where we are now. So essentially it's credibility. Ghana has been trying to get the private markets to fund its way out of this trouble. It's talked to syndicates of banks. It's been trying to borrow domestically at a significant rate. It just got to a point where the investors are saying, we don't think you may be able to pay us back because you're not using the money that we are lending to address issues with your economy that will put you in a position to be more credit-worthy than you are. You are just taking this money and spending it on debts falling due, on paying salaries of civil servants, on making good on liabilities that have already accrued. That is not the kind of debt that is likely to be sustainable.
That's Bright Simmons, a Ghanaian policy analyst.